I encourage everyone to turn on your camera so I can see you, because that gives me so much energy. So, turn your camera on and join in. Make some comments and chat. Make this interactive and be a part of it. I'd love to see you. So here's a question. Hi, Laura. Thank you. Have you stopped to think? Now, this is a deep question. Have you stopped to think, really think about how much has changed in the past 18 months? How much has changed for you? I think work has changed for sure. The way we network with others has changed. The way we socialize, the way we eat, right? The way we dress differently now. The shoes we wear, the way we celebrate, that's changed. The way we conduct business has definitely changed. The way we interact with others has changed. If you stop to make a list of all the changes that have happened to you in the past 18 months, it's a little bit mind-blowing. And it's no wonder that people are a little uncomfortable with change. Change is hard. There's just no question about it. Change is hard. But then again, in the words of Benjamin Franklin, when you're finished changing, you're finished. I love that quote. It scares me though. You do, right? Because I'm really not ready to be finished. So here's what we're going to do today. In the next hour, by noon, that's our cutoff time, by noon, you're going to feel better about change in general. You're going to understand how to help your employees, how to help yourself and your business to move through change. And I just want to stop and pause on that word, to move through change, because that's really important. If you can help people to move through change, that means there's something on the other side. It's when people get stuck that we get really scared. And we'll be talking a little bit about being stuck, because we do have people that are stuck. So what we have to do is help everybody to be able to move through change, because we know that change really is necessary, right? There's no question that change is necessary. Have you ever seen that movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray wakes up and the same thing happens every day? That was fun at first for him. But for us too, if we don't have change, we have no opportunity to grow. Change promotes growth. You can't make improvements unless you change something, right? Opportunities come from willingness to change. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're never going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And I think one of probably the most exciting things, especially as a business owner, is that change encourages innovation, new ideas, new challenges to do things in new and different ways. Of course, there is some anxiety involved, right? There's no question that it does bring some anxiety. I think we would all agree with that. Would you all agree with that? You felt some anxiety? Yeah. But a lot of entrepreneurs live for change, right? And they see it as an opportunity. So that's good. We like some change. So how about like the pandemic and the changes that we made? We were forced to make changes so fast and so vast, right? I'm wondering if it's possible that some of you on this call today could even go so far as to say that some of the changes that you've had to make were actually opportunities. Can you think of it that way? That maybe some of the changes that you've had to make were actually opportunities. Hey, I got agreement from B. Cornelius. Thank you. I think so. See, I really do think that some of the changes have created opportunities, because I think it's given us permission, in a way, to try some things that we never thought were possible, right? My church is a great example. My church, for years, has been talking about the possibility of streaming their services, but it was impossible. They couldn't do it. They didn't have the technology. the vestry, the church directors just didn't feel like we should invest that kind of money in the technology that it would take to be able to stream. And plus, who would want to listen to it? Who would attend? Who would care, right? And then comes COVID. And in a matter of like 60 days, the church went completely virtual and shut everything down. Attendance has been fantastic. And what's really interesting is a lot of people who have been members of the church for years are tuning in to the live events, the streamed events, who were not attending church because it's convenient. They can sit in their living room. They can watch the live stream. They can be a part of the service. They can worship from their living room, and they're attending in ways that they never had before. So now my church is facing the question, when we go back in person, when everybody's back, do we continue to live stream? That's an opportunity. A whole different group of people are now participating in church services that couldn't or didn't want to actually physically come to the church every Sunday. So yeah, I mean, think about it. Really, there are opportunities that have come about because of the changes that we've had to make. Of course, in the words of Peter Drucker, he said the best way to predict the future is to create it. Well, yeah, I think that's a great quote. I mean, the question is, can change be predicted? Well, you think about small business owners. They reinvent themselves over and over again, creating a new future, right? So in a way, they are predicting change. They're looking all the time for what's happening and what they can do and how they can change things and make their businesses better. And right now, what we're seeing is those businesses that have proven to be resilient are the ones that found a way to adapt, to change and create new paradigms. Oh, there's a word, paradigm. What happened in 2020 is more than a change. It's actually a paradigm shift. Have you heard that word? I love, this is one of my favorite words, paradigm, right? So what's a paradigm? A set of rules, written or unwritten, that establishes boundaries within which we learn how to be successful. And what we know is that when a paradigm shifts, everything goes back to zero. I think that's exactly what's happened. I think we have had a major paradigm shift and everything went back to zero. And we were all forced to go back at the same time. And what we know from the study of paradigms, and Joel Barker is one of the leading authorities on paradigm shifts. If you want to look more on this, Joel Barker, he's great. Check him out on the internet. But he tells us that usually the first problems that we solve with the new paradigm are ones that were unsolvable with the old paradigm. Usually the first problems you solve with the new paradigm are the ones that were unsolvable with the old paradigm. That's exactly what happened with my church. They could not streamline services. It was unsolvable. But when that paradigm shifted and everything closed and they were forced to do something new, something outside of their belief system, outside of their pattern, they found a way to solve it. Interesting. And Joel Barker tells us that your past success guarantees nothing when there's such a shift. And I think that's a lot of what we've seen. Just because somebody was successful in the past doesn't mean in the new paradigm that it will work. Remote work is not really possible for every business, right? I mean, we have some folks that have continued to work through this because it had to happen. But then again, we've seen that people who are resilient, businesses who are resilient, have found new ways and new business models. I've seen a lot of examples of this in my customers and people that I've talked with. One of my favorite is a court system. I talked to an attorney in Tampa, and her job is to work with kids who have been Baker Acted. Now, just in case you don't know what that means, Baker Acted means that a kid is having so many issues that they need some professional help. They need like a temporary kind of a commitment so that they can be hospitalized and we can work to help them through a serious crisis. And typically what happens when a kid is Baker Acted in the state of Florida, which is where I am, a kid goes to a hospital, they're received there, and like 6 people come in person to see them right away. there's a counselor, there's an attorney, there's that attorney, there's the person from the facility, there's the parents, there's the social services. So all these people come to see this child. With COVID, no one was allowed to see the child. No one was allowed to go and meet that child face to face. So they had to make a quick shift to virtual. So they did it on Zoom. They met with the child on Zoom. All these different people met with the child on Zoom, and they did it in one group. That was impossible. We can't possibly do that. You have to see the kid face to face. So I talked to this attorney about how that was going. She said, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. This is a complete shift in a business model, but this is so much better for the child when you think about it. The child's not being, berated by all these people coming in the time of crisis. Instead, they're having this nice, easy meeting where they don't even have to turn their camera on if they don't want to. We can still talk to them. I said, when COVID is over, when this crisis is over, do you think that's all going to go away? She said, never will this go away, because this is so much better for the child than anyone could have ever imagined. That's a change in business model. And that's just one example. I bet several of you have your own examples that you could talk about. I mean, now what we're seeing is, some of your people never want to work in an office building again. People are saying, if you make me come back, I'm out of here, right? All of a sudden we're having trouble hiring because people don't want to come back into the workplace. We have organizations who are recognizing that the cost for a big building is not necessary. Maybe we can do a hybrid model. Maybe we can have people working from home and working in the office and in a hybrid type schedule, where before we said, no way, we can't do that. We have to have these office buildings. Oh, how about doctors seeing patients on Zoom? Now this was starting to emerge, but with COVID, it became a reality. I had a little fever. I needed to see my doctor. I couldn't go in person. It's COVID. She got on the phone with me. Of course, it was 6:30 in the morning, but hey, oh well, on Zoom, and prescribed what I needed, and I was fine. And before we were saying, no way, now we're saying, wow, what a wonderful thing that we can see patients on Zoom or online, especially like some of our patients that have serious illnesses who we need to check on. We just like to see them, but to ask them to come into the office is an awful inconvenience for them. But if I can see them on Zoom as a doctor, I can tell how they're doing. That's impossible. We can't do that. Yes, we can. This is what I mean about a paradigm shift. I think we've had a major paradigm shift. So how do we lead everybody through all of this when you're the leader? How do you lead people through times of change? And remember that a leader is not necessarily somebody who has a title. All of you are leaders in one way or another. And helping people to get through change, it is a really important thing for us. If we could help each other, right, to get through change in this way. But today I'm going to talk to you specifically about how to lead your employees through change, how to help yourself through change, and then some things to do just for your business. And I just want to qualify that when I say employees, I'm talking about employees because we're here today from the courtesy of the Small Business Development Center, and that's our target. But we're really talking about all people. All people. When we talk about employees, guess what? Employees are people. So these tips will help you with everyone. So first, let's talk about helping our employees. And you can see here that what I have is a picture of someone driving a car. And why? Because resistance primarily comes from that feeling that you have no control. That's where the fear comes from with change. I don't have control. I'm not driving this car, and I don't know what's going to happen to me. So resistance typically stems from fear. First, we just have to stop for a minute and try to understand the impact of change. Now, here's something that you may have heard of in a different model, but this applies to change. Did you know that people actually go through 5 stages of change? A lot like the 5 stages of grief, if you've ever heard of that. I mean, think about what's going on right now. It's time to come back to work. The first reaction is shock and denial. No way, it's not safe. I'm not coming back. You gotta be kidding. We're not going back to work. I don't want to go back to that office right now. I know that it's not safe. Not everyone is immunized. No, shock, denial, right? And then they move to the second phase, the flood of emotion, usually anger, maybe despair, wait, I can't do this. I can't handle this, the emotion that comes with it. From there, they move into bargaining. Well, what if I just come back 1 day a week? Or what if we just delay this 30 days? Or what if we find a way to, make a hybrid? If you do this, I'll do this. They try to bargain. They're trying to justify and rationalize it. Finally, they move to depression and grief. Now, here's something really critical for you to write down on your notes. All change, whether it's good or bad, all change produces loss in some form, which means that all loss must be grieved, even good change. So your employees are going to go through some depression and grief. Shoot, this means I can't be with my kids all day anymore, which I just love hanging with my kids all day. Or now I have to commute again. There goes my exercise program. Instead of exercising, I'm going to have to get in my car and drive for 45 minutes. They're going to have that depression. They're going to grieve this. This is a loss. All change, whether it's good or bad, before they finally get to acceptance. And note this is important. It's on 2 levels. Intellectually, you can tell me I have to, but that's not enough. It also has to be on an emotional level where I accept the change. Like I said, all kinds of change, whether it's good or bad, we go through these 5 changes. Now, here's the bad news. For a really big change like we've seen with COVID, this can take 1 to 5 if it's a big organizational change. But for the type of change we've seen with COVID, it's going to take 1 to 2 years for the average person to move through all 5 of these stages. What? 1 to 2 years? And we think as business owners, we don't have time for this. We don't have a choice. I come in sometimes to departments that tell me their employees need to be motivated. Their employees just aren't motivated. They're just unhappy. We need to get morale up. The first thing I ask is, what change have you made lately? Because chances are there's been a big change. And what's going on is something that's natural and necessary. They're going through these stages. As long as they're going through them, we're good. They're going through these stages. And they're going to have this feeling of loss and depression. And it's normal. And we have to let them go through this. You can't just throw a party and say, okay, now everybody accepts the change. Because remember, it has to be intellectual and emotional. So this is really important when you're thinking about change. And like I said, even good change, my daughter is a great example of this. At one point, we decided our daughter was going to get a new car. Her old car, she was driving like 6 hours between home and school. We felt she needed a new car. We wanted her to have a new car before she started her next phase of school. Before you go to law school, you're getting a new car. But I love my old car. But you need a new car. But I love it so much. So finally, just to show you how this works, the new car and the old car sitting in the driveway side by side. We get the new car. And, the old car's about to go. Somebody's bought it. We're waiting for them to come pick it up. My daughter's outside with a friend taking pictures. And we're like, yes, she's getting pictures with the new car. How wonderful. This is great. I look out the window and guess what? She's taking pictures with the old car. She's in depression and grief. She's grieving for the loss of her first car. That was her first car. It doesn't matter that, it's beat up, that it needs repair. No, I love this car, And I had to allow her to go through that depression and grief without getting frustrated with her because I just bought her a brand new car so that she can move to intellectual and emotional acceptance. So all change produces loss. All loss must be grieved. Just know that that's a natural part in helping anybody to move through change. Make sense? Yeah, we need to think about that as business owners. The question is, can you get stuck? Yeah, there'll be people who put their tongue against that pole. I had a boss one time. I was working for the Department of Children and Families. And there was a big decision that they were going to privatize all foster care and adoptions, which meant we were all going to be out of a job, basically. She got so stuck in the very first phase, denial. She refused to believe it. She knew that there was nobody out there that could do work as good as we were doing. And she absolutely refused to move forward. And in spite of, the times going on, it's a 2-year time frame, even 18 months into it, she was still in denial. And she ended up having to leave the agency completely, the whole everything, because she could not move past denial. She couldn't move through those stages at all. This is when it gets scary, is when somebody gets stuck, because they're either going to get burned out and quit, or maybe they'll stay, which could be even worse because they become difficult employees. Even if you're feeling like the physical and emotional toll of everything that's happened, it's possible that you're stuck, because that's what starts to happen. It's got to come up somewhere. It's got to come out somehow. And sometimes you'll see employees become sick, that are emotionally distraught. And I think that's why we're hearing so much about mental health right now and everything that's going on, because people get stuck in these stages of change. So it's healthy to move through them. It's not healthy to be stuck. So how do we help them? Help me. There's 3 things we're going to do. We're going to inform them, we're going to include them, and we're going to appreciate them. And the first thing is to inform them. Using multiple methods of communication to keep our employees and those around us included on everything that we're doing. Multiple methods of communication, because, there are some people who do not read email. It's fact. There are some people who do not read text. It's a fact. It's really important to know how is the best way to communicate with people. I have one customer who I was sending these emails to regularly, and it takes time to construct a really good email, right? And I never got any response, and it was really frustrating for me. So finally, one day I texted her and I said, I've been sending email, I haven't had any response. Is everything okay? She texted me back instantly and said, I never read email, but text me. I'm always available on text. I'm like, man, I should have known that. And that's the thing about having employees, is understanding that for that person who only reads text, somebody else doesn't read text at all. So you have to communicate in multiple ways to make sure that people know what's going on. And while you're talking to them and informing them, listen actively to see what their response is, to see where they are in those stages of change. Listen to them, establish trust with them. But remember this, that during times of change, perceptions are always distorted, all right? Nothing's going to seem the way it should be. So just be aware of that. That's going to happen. When you have times of change, people are going to question things. Gossip and rumors are blooming, so we have to really make a lot of effort to keep them informed. Remember, the big question for everyone is why? Why are we doing this? Why do you think that? Why is this happening? Everybody wants to know the why. So give it to them. Give it to them. Tell them why. Include them. Include them in everything that you are going through. Don't excuse behavior, but allow them to have feelings. We know that change produces that fear of the unknown, right? So help them to identify solutions and create your future. Be transparent with them. Ask them what they think. Ask them how we can move forward. See, I really think this is what happened with my boss that I just talked about. I think this is where she got stuck, because she was the kind of person who was very innovative, had a lot of ideas about how to do things, and really believed in herself and was very confident in her ability to solve problems. But nobody really included her in what was going on. They didn't come to her from the start and say, hey, this is going to happen. What do you think? What do you think we could do to make this transition smoother? How can we make this work best? She was cut out. Yeah, she was cut out. She was just told, this is what we're doing. And I think that's really why she got stuck in denial, because she couldn't even move past that. So including people, being transparent. Remember, your employees, they want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So help them to be a part of the solution. Remember that the more resources and time you invest in talking with your employees and including them, the more collaborative your change process is going to be, the more committed they're going to be to the change. I call this economics 101 of change. So to increase commitment to change, those affected need to be part of defining the change, which means that you have to work to help make good and right decisions so that you'll have a happier workplace for all. Now, at the same time that this other change was happening that my boss was like so totally in denial of, my right-hand man, because I was a senior leader at this point, her name was Deanna, and she and I were constantly together talking about how to get through this. Neither one of us liked it. We hated it, but we're going to go through this change and we got to do this. So we spent a lot of time working together on how to do it and how to help people to be more comfortable with it and doing all the things that I'm telling you. And here's what happened with Deanna. About 3 months before the big change where everybody was going to lose their job and have to go private or else, Deanna came to me and said, I'm just feeling really anxious about this change. And I'm like, well, so are we. I mean, everybody is. That makes sense. She says, no, you don't understand. I'm feeling really excited. I mean, okay, I haven't heard this before. I'm like, you're feeling excited? Why are you excited? She said, I'm excited because think about it. 6 months from now, I'm going to be doing something completely different than what I'm doing right now. I have no idea what that's going to be. And that's really exciting because I have an opportunity to make that happen and figure it out. What an attitude, right? And see, that's what happens when you take the time to invest in your employees and make them part of it. They get excited about it. They become innovative. They find solutions instead of total denial, right? Also, be sure to appreciate them because, they've been through a lot. We all have. We have been through a lot with this. Know that appreciation is different for different people. I have these little gold stars. When I hold up these gold stars for people during a conference like this, some people get very excited that they got a gold star and other people are going, well, that's hokey. Some people love it, some people don't. But as a boss, remember that you have to find the right way to appreciate every person and to express that appreciation and let them know that they're valued. Take time to show them why they're valued. Take time to just talk and check up on each other. Respect them. I think one of the things that's happened, especially with all these Zoom meetings and all this stuff, is we're so focused on business and getting through our agenda that we don't take time just to say, hey, Laura, how are you? I don't think that's Laura right now. But anyway, but like, Jennifer, how are you? I mean, just taking time to say to somebody, hey, Kathy, how are you feeling? How are things going? Sonia, what's new? How's it going? How are the kids? How is the family? That's a really important part of this. Just understanding that we're all unique and that I really think today, instead of talking about work-life balance, we need to be talking about work-life integration. Because one thing we've learned, I think one of the lessons we've learned in COVID is that families are important. And I think that people who were willing to just work unbelievable amount of hours and then were forced to come home for a while now value so much their children and their families that they don't want to give that back up. And I think as employers, that's a change that we're going to have to embrace and figure out how to manage that, how to help our employees and integrate work with their home life. So I'm saying here, it's not really about balance anymore. It's about integration. All right, so we're going to help our employees, right? Remember, they want you to be empathetic. Give them that. Now let's talk about how to help you a little bit. How to help you. So I had this one customer named Michael, and he called me when COVID happened, and he was really overwhelmed. He said, I don't know what to do. I mean, I think I'm going to have to close my business because I just don't know how to solve these problems. His name was Mike, and I said, Mike, going into my coaching role, how do your employees feel about the problems that COVID has created? And Mike says, well, I haven't asked them. I'm like, well, why not? Well, I don't really want them to know how bad things are. I don't know how to solve these problems. And I really I want to be optimistic for them. I always have been, and I don't think I can be optimistic because I don't know what I'm going to do. So Mike, I say, how are your employees reacting to that? And Mike says, I think they're fine because I don't hear much from them. And in my head, red flags are going up all over the place, you know. I said, Mike, your employees, they want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, right? They want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. You have to inform them. You have to include them, and you have to value them, appreciate them. How do I do that? How do I do that? Well, the first thing is to empower them. Empower them. It's about letting go so that others can get going. The greatest day in my leadership career was one day when I was so totally frustrated. I mean, beyond anything. I was so frustrated because I had a problem that I didn't know how to solve. It was one of these things that the state told us we had to do. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to do. I was so frustrated, so upset. I had a staff meeting and I walked in with a white handkerchief on a pencil and called it my white flag meeting. I said, I give up. I don't know. I don't know what to do. This is bad. You guys are going to hate this. I do too, but we have to do it. I don't know what to do. The reason it was the greatest day in my leadership career because it was the first time when I looked at my team as a team of people who had talents and abilities to help me solve problems that I had not been tapping into. You know, I felt like I had to do it all myself. I was the leader. I had to solve all the problems. When I opened myself up to ask them for help, they bought in. And, you know, these are the words of Patrick Lencioni, which I love. You can't expect people to buy in unless they've had an opportunity to weigh in. You can't expect people to buy in unless they've had an opportunity to weigh in. And that day changed everything for me because my employees had a lot of great ideas if I just asked them, and everything changed for us. So it means giving them authority. It means enabling them and promoting their self-actualization, the self-actualization of others. Now, I tell you, during times of change, this is difficult because as leaders, our tendency is to circle the wagons, right? And try to protect what's ours. But instead, we really need to tap into the talents and knowledge of others, our employees, our customers, our peers. Delegation is a really important part of this. Delegation, look at this definition of delegation, and we're doing a whole session on this coming up. So the assignment of responsibilities to others along with authority and resources necessary to complete the job. The important thing about delegation, and I won't go into much detail here because we do have a whole session coming up on it, is that it has to be done right. If you do delegation wrong, you can really screw it up. It has to be done right. In your chat box today, there is a link for a delegation guide that will give you step-by-step instructions on how to delegate. So go to the link, click on that, and you can download this delegation guide that I've written to help leaders such as yourself do delegation the right way. And then tune into the whole session that we're going to do on it, and you'll learn more about delegation. The second thing you have to do is, I call it create disruptive harmony. You see, we like a harmonious environment. Yes, we do. And it's nice when everything is going along fine, but don't be fooled. When people are in agreement and you see a lot of agreement, it makes me wonder what's going on beneath the surface. We like a harmonious environment. We're not good at addressing problems. That's a big mistake. We have to encourage our employees to let us know what's going on that's good, what's going on that's not so good. It's easier in a virtual world to move through an agenda without really openly and honestly debating issues. So this is something we really have to work on. You know what the #1 demotivator in the US is? Consistently, book to book, study to study, the #1 demotivator to employees, it's that my supervisor tolerates poor performance. My supervisor tolerates poor performance. There's things going on under the surface. They let it go because it's too hard to handle. So disruptive harmony. And finally, for you, just get ready because it ain't over. Be ready, expect change. There's going to be more change. There's always going to be change. Thank goodness, because it's a good thing. So be ready. We're going to continue to experience change. And even now, there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know how we're going to handle everything that we've created with this new business model. So make a list of things that you think are going to change. You can predict change in a way, and just be ready to do your best to predict your future and predict what's going to happen. And also be ready and have faith. You guys have heard this story before. Thomas Edison working on the light bulb. It took him more than 10,000 experiments to get it right. And he said, that's 10,000 ways not to do it. Never quit. He never gave up on what he was trying to do. So, just have faith and keep moving forward. Don't give up on yourself. There's lots of other examples of this. Think about, Starbucks. I mean, people thought the Starbucks concept was insane. You could get coffee for 50 cents. They're offering it for $3.50 a cup because they want to give you a European coffee feel where you can come in and network with others. Look what happened to Starbucks. Blockbusters, Kodak, there's many, many examples of this through history. So, stay a course, have faith, have faith. Finally, just a few tips for your business. And probably the biggest thing is just to know that people, that's the big secret, people. Here you go. Stop worrying about what you can do and start conversations about what we can do. Know that you have a tribe of people here. You have a lot of people. Involve them. They don't want to be part of the problem. They want to be part of the solution. So stop worrying so much about what you can do and start talking to other people about what we can do to solve problems. In your business, you have all kinds of people around you. Listen to your customers. Listen to your employees. What about your networking groups, your associations? There are many, many people who can help you. So it's time to tap into that. Think about COVID. We got some real leadership lessons in COVID as businesses, I think. We had challenges and people stepped up. I mean, I know that one of the things with COVID was we felt like, we needed to look after our people. We were worried about them with everything that was going on. We cared about them. And leaders who let their employees know that we cared, guess what happened? Productivity went up, not down. When we trusted, productivity went up. Our employees found ways to be creative and to improvise, and we're committed to improvising. New technology was essential. Not all of us had it. So we really worked hard to provide tools. Remember not that long ago when you couldn't buy a webcam because none were available? We provided tools, and guess what? Our employees learned how to use them with absolutely no training at all. They became masters of resource. They found ways to go watch those Zoom videos and YouTube videos and learn how to do these things, even though you provided them no training at all in many cases. We needed to define expectations for survival. They were there. They were fully engaged. We trusted. They stepped up. We had to pivot. They were right with us. So this should restore our faith a little bit. Trust them. Be flexible. Practice mindfulness. Be present in the moment. Be optimistic. We want to be optimistic. Let's tell people what's going right and make a conscious choice to focus on the positive. Be patient. I know that's not always easy, but we have to be patient, especially with our employees who are going through these stages of change, right? And be compassionate, empathize. Get past your own feelings, your own concerns, and freely feel and acknowledge the feelings of others. They're going through a lot, just like you are. You know that everybody wants much the same, and we all deserve respect and dignity. So as business owners, let's provide that to all. Leading through change. Now you know what I mean by that. Leading through change. Know that it's necessary. View it as an opportunity. It's a paradigm shift. Cool word, P, paradigm. Help employees by informing them, including them, and appreciating them. Help yourself by empowering others. Addressing problems head on. Watch for what's under the surface and being ready for change. Help your businesses by collaborating with everyone in your tribe. Let me pause for questions for a minute.